morning, class. I never knew her by name, although I have known her all along, and now, of course, there can be no doubt who, and indeed what, Karen is. And you may be assured I am all too familiar with how laughably, infuriatingly unpleasant Karen can be in her sanctimony, in her self-righteous sense of entitlement, and in her prejudices. With that stated, as I began to witness the emergence of this cultural awareness, while I fully concede that the bulk of these instances of childishly erratic behavior fully justify the ridicule which they provoke, I nevertheless began to experience a mild sense of apprehension, a notion of foreboding. And then I knew why. Now, as much as I hate to be a killjoy and spoil all of your fun, I know all of you, too. I know how you are. I know how much you love to think that you're solving the problems of the world by calling people names, in essence by labeling them, by coining new stereotypes and all that good stuff. Yes, well, please remember that you are living at a time in which, after millennia of sexual oppression, women's voices are finally, resoundingly being heard. This is a united voice, one which cannot, one which should not be obstructed. Now, please, let it be known that I do not believe, not for a millisecond, that any progressive, proactive women's lib feminists have any problem at all with not being linked to that pushy, loudmouth, upper middle class imagery. No. But you see, herein rests the problem. The judgment call is, for the most part, being made by, God forbid, John and Jane Q. Public. This means that any woman who might just have an honest-to-God valid reason to speak up and say something, she now runs the risk of being labeled Karen at any given moment, and the idea that she might then be induced to remain silent, to be disempowered, that is just not acceptable. Oh, what's this now? No. You don't get it. No, that's not what we're doing. No, this isn't about silencing women's voices. No. No, this is about calling out that one specific ridiculous element. It's about spotlighting that one specific type of woman. Ah, yes, I see. Spotlighting, and indeed gaslighting, that one specific type of woman, as adjudged by you, by any and all of you. Need I remind you as to who and what you are? You are a temperamentally angry, volatile mob of people. Hyper-militant, poised to pounce, chip on the shoulder, public avengers. And you ask me to trust your judgment as regards what doth a Karen make? Yeah, swell. Sounds like a great plan. Well, now, wait a minute. What are you trying to say? Are you asking us to be discerning in how we apply the Karen label? Are you telling us that we should use Karen responsibly? Why, what a good idea. Do you think you can handle it? Well, no, wait a minute now. The main thing about this is that it's about race. Karen is by definition white, and that makes it all right. We get to use this label in our arsenal against racism, and you wouldn't dare argue with that. It's more about racial oppression than it is about sexual oppression. Oh, is it? Well now, that's not really for me to say, is it? And unless you are a black woman, it's for goddamn sure not for you to say either. So pray let us defer this question to someone who can offer an individual's insight, none other than the late Louise Jefferson of the Upper East Side of Manhattan, who even after moving on up to that part of town, never once forgot where she came from. Case in point, this interval of her life back in Queens, circa day October 1973.
How about a woman president?
Oh, holy cow. A woman president?
Mr. Jefferson, this may come as a big surprise to you, but women are much more oppressed than blacks.
I don't see no ghetto for women.
What do you call a kitchen?
I call it a prison.
Stay out of this, Louise. You're talking foolish.
Do you know what Shirley Chisholm said? Shirley Chisholm said that she ran into more discrimination because she was a woman than because she was black.
That's why she didn't get elected.
Right.
Because she was talking foolish.
Just one lone woman's impressions. But who knows how many other women share that assessment now, today, all these years later. Again, it is not for me to say. Look, kids, let us end this happy little discourse with 2 points of summation, one which you will not like at all, and one which you will love. Discussing the Karen phenomenon was not, incidentally, the lesson plan for today. No. Today's lesson was simply to serve as a commemorative reminder that on the 26th of this month, American women will have reached a centennial milestone. On August 26th, 1920, 100 years ago, the women's suffragette movement succeeded in claiming the right to vote. And that right to vote her conscience was a tremendous stride in being able to voice her conscience, to speak it and be heard. Well, with that right attained, it is both my hope and my enjoinder that women throughout this land will use their votes, will use their voices to defeat an exposed and defamatory incumbent who is both an opponent and an offense to all women, to every woman, everywhere. Now, as to those aforementioned 2 points, ladies, women, girls, gals, it absolutely belongs to all of you to confront any of your sisters if she is or if she is being Karen. You get to do that. What I ask you to consider, if only for your own individualized integrity and peace of mind, is that, while indeed, should you find that you yourself are being a Karen, then perhaps you will check yourself. However, on the other hand, if you are nothing of the kind, and yet you find yourself in a situation in which you are compelled to speak up, to defend yourself, and then along comes some reactionary jackass who calls you that anyway? Girls, I know that you can handle anything, but I gotta tell you, the idea of being called something like that, if you truly do not deserve it, that just sounds like it would be a painful injury which would be piled on top of everything else with which you have already been burdened. And I frankly believe that you have had entirely too much heaped upon you by this world as it is. Now, should any of you find it difficult to appreciate these sentiments because they are in essence coming from a man, well then pray, let us get to that second point. If, despite everything which I have tried to impart to you today, you are all still hell-bent on name-calling, and Karen remains the operative word of the day, well then, I recommend that you take it all one step further. Need I remind you that for every one pushy, entitled, big-mouth broad out there, there are probably 100 boys, men, guys who are even more pushy, entitled, and big-mouthed, and on top of that are sexist, chauvinistic misogynists. Now, if you think that calling some rich queen bee society dame Karen is going to trigger an avalanche, well, what in the hell kind of volcano-erupting nuclear reactor meltdown response will you get if you call some belligerent, arrogant, punk-ass male chauvinist pig a Karen? Just imagine the impact. Remember, these are the same pigs who drool at the prospect of a cat fight. Yeah, those guys. Guys who thrive on seeing women battling each other. Just imagine hurling the label of Karen right into the snout of that herd of swine breed. This brings us to the close of today's lesson. Ladies, you fought for and conquested the right to vote. And so help me, Geraldine Ferraro, I implore you, use it. Class dismissed.